Hello, everyone. A very good evening from Evrox Healthcare. This show has been brought to you by Evrox Healthcare, which is a digital healthcare company, and its flagship product is the F1 app, which is getting launched very, very soon. And for its demo, we are inviting a lot of people, a lot of doctors, nutritionists, healthcare workers, even mental health people. So please do contact us for that on the number given on the poster. So today's show is about mental health and workplace, and basically it's about workplace stress. So for that, we have my very good friend Tanvi, who is a clinical psychologist, and she has been on other 2 to 3 shows almost prior with us. And she's almost a veteran now, and she keeps on coming online and goes live with us, and she talks about a lot of mental health issues. So kindly welcome her. She's working with Kotak as of now, and she is also the project manager of Heal. Please welcome Tanvi.
Hey, thank you for the introduction, Surabhi. It's so nice to be back. I believe it's our fourth show together. So
Yes,
it's so nice to be back.
absolutely, and it's so nice to have you. I mean, I share this space with you, on a personal level as well. But online, I feel so comfortable whenever you are around. So just
Yeah,
welcome, welcome.
feeling is mutual.
Yeah. So the second person with us today is making a debut actually on the show. I mean, he has always been in the backdrop and helping us with our online shows, and he manages everything on the backdrop. But today he's making an online debut for the first time. He is showing his face, and he is the founder and CEO of Evrox Healthcare, who is an entrepreneur. Please welcome Sanjib.
Hey, hi. Hi, Surabhi. Hi, Tanvi. Good to see both of
Hey,
you.
good to see you too.
Thank you for having me, Surabhi.
Thank you for
Yeah, I
showing your
mean,
face.
Thank you for having us, Sanjeev.
I
I
only had to wait about 30 shows and about 1.5 years to be a panelist.
to come. Yeah,
Surabhi,
basically, even
Surabhi just
waited
won't
for
have
COVID.
me.
Basically, we were waiting
Oh,
for COVID to end. You were like COVID for us.
Oh, good. Okay.
oh my God.
A great eye
Oh,
opener then.
what?
A great eye opener then, because COVID has been more of an eye opener for
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, yeah. So you are an eye
True,
opener for
true.
us, definitely.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think I'll start with Tanvi first, and then we'll get back to Sanjeev. So, Tanvi, what is exactly work-related stress?
So work-related stress could be really anything that happens, not just, like in the workspace, not just in the office or any space that you identify yourself working with, any organization. It can also happen because of work-related issues. So any issue in which, say, the deadline pressure is mounting, that could amount to workplace stress. Any issue in which you don't have a supportive team, that can also be workplace stress. Ambiguous job titles, lack of job role clarity, that could also be workplace stress. Sometimes the prospect of sort of like going to office in a particular environment, let's just say in a crowded city like Mumbai, one has to travel in crowded Mumbai locals to reach their offices. That could that the prospect of traveling to work in a crowded local could also constitute workplace stress for a few individuals. So the definition varies according to individual, I believe. Basically, to cut it short, any and every stress or a trigger that is caused by something which is work related, something which is a profession related.
So, Tanvi, what is the workplace stress scale? Is there a stress scale for that, as you mentioned earlier? And how is the employee stress measured?
Right, right. So yes, Surbi, that's a very relevant question as to how do we quantify stress, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
specifically employee stress. So we have a lot of assessment with regards to workplace stress. You have the workplace stress scale, you have the workplace stress questionnaire. So you basically have a lot of assessments that focus on different parameters. So like I mentioned, one could be job satisfaction. Second could be the kind of perceived support you're getting from your colleagues, from your boss, the expectations that are being placed on you, the deadlines, your own aptitude versus how well you're able to, cope up with the kind of job which is given to you. That could be one component. Another component could also be sort of like related to, again, like I said, ambiguity or like clarity in job functions. How quickly do you sort of like you see yourself climbing up the corporate ladder or climbing up in the workplace ladder? So multiple assessment measure multiple parameters to gauge workplace stress. And so if you actually do these assessments now, apart from workplace stress, I think individuals and organizations are also coming up with assessment like like your stress assessment, stress risk assessment, to really understand what are different kind of stressors an average employee faces in any organization. And basis that, perhaps they look to refine their corporate policies, so to make the employee life easy or convenient.
Okay, so Tanvi, there is definitely a stress scale, as like for the general public as well. From
Hmm.
rating from 0 to 100,
Yeah,
and at
yeah,
the 100th level is like death of the spouse, and then a lot of
correct.
things, death of parents, death of
Hmm, hmm,
children,
hmm,
and a lot
hmm.
of other things. Even marriage is one of the stressors. For somebody, divorce is is a huge stressor. For somebody, giving birth to children is stress, and somebody not having children is a stress. So a lot of things affect. Okay, so
Absolutely.
does this also affect the workplace stress scale? I mean, is there a mixture in between the two somewhere?
Yes, yes, definitely there could be. For example, getting a promotion is something which is perceived to be what Surbi just spoke about was the lifestyle change scale, I believe, in which you have like she said, like for example, death of the spouse being 100, etc. So one of the items on that is also, for example, losing job. Of course, that is stressful. So, but you could also lose your job because of the stressors that one face at home. You could also not get a promotion because of the stressors that you face in your personal life, in your social life, in your
Exactly,
romantic life,
exactly.
in your in your sexual life. So all of these things are definitely impacting our scores. They are intertwined, so naturally your personal life is bound to impact your professional life as well. Although this is not true for everybody, sometimes people learn how to compartmentalize their work life and their personal life to a fairly good extent. But so to speak, yes, it does impact your work stress impacts your home life impacts your work stress. It goes both ways.
Exactly, so everything is interlinked somewhere. So your
Absolutely,
work can affect
absolutely,
the personal life, and the personal life can affect the work, and both can cause a lot of stress
absolutely.
and upheaval.
Hmm.
Yes,
Hmm.
so I think, should I call Sanjeev on board? Sanjeev, are you coming, or should I still continue with Tanvi?
Yeah, I'm right here, just listening to you.
Yeah, okay. So then, as an entrepreneur, how do you think that how is work from home affecting stress levels? Because, like you said, that you have been working from home since very long, and now you're finally showing your face today. So anyway, so for these 2 years, how did it affect people, and what was your own experience?
See, I think I'll keep it short because we has promised. Otherwise, she's going to throw me away from the show if I don't keep it short. It's very simple. See, working from home can make life easy for some people, and working from home might not make it easy for some people. So it's a catch-22 situation. If you're living with your parents belong to a completely different generation. The kind of way they look at work, they don't understand your work, so it could be very very different. And if you're staying on your own, then the good thing is you get a lot of privacy. You get a lot of room to work. You don't have someone looking over your shoulders telling you, there are other things to do. There could be some, go to the market, do this, do that. Along with, there's nothing like that. But given how pandemic has affected work, a lot of companies have started expecting that you're going to work since 7 in the morning to 8, 9 in the evening, or night. We should call it night. So when do you do your household domestic chores? When do you wash your clothes? When do you have a bath? When do you go to the loo? When do you do what? When do you have lunch? When do you cook lunch? Everybody doesn't get paid a lot of money to have a domestic help. So you might have to cook your own food, right? So you might be saving money by not traveling. You might be saving money with some things. But if you're turning your AC on, if you're keeping your lights on, if you're using electricity at home, those things don't come free. So it's you save some, you lose some, you win some. It's a mixture. But I think if you talk to proper people like a therapist, if you talk to your HR people, you might get a hang around of how to manage stress while you're working from home. But it's a very personal thing.
That's so true. That's so true. So now that we are talking so much about workplace stress and all of that, so what are the symptoms that people may experience because of this workplace stress?
So the symptoms are really varied. What Sanjeev also said makes sense that in a situation like a pandemic where you're stuck at home alone, so such an individual might face like bouts of loneliness, and they might feel they might feel uh, because there is no human contact, because there is no human touch, or there is nobody to sort of like talk to them. That might also result in like huge major adjustment issues. Like one day you're going to work and you have your colleagues around you, the next day, you're stuck home alone for the longest of time with no certainty. That, of course, is stressful. A lot of individuals reported physical health issues as well. For example, increase in headaches, increasing migraines, stomach aches, fever, or you could say sleeplessness or lack of appetite, loss of appetite, weight gain, weight loss. So there are physical impacts of workplace stress, and the mental impacts is of course like major issues adjusting to something, procrastination that happens a lot, loss of concentration, loss of focus. You might sort of start to chase perfection, or you might start to worry a lot about your future, about your place in the organization. So you might start chasing goals, you might start chasing deadlines which are unrealistic in nature, and because you falter, you basically are adding on to more anxiety. So anxiety and depression are unfortunately also very common when we talk about workplace stress.
So we also talk a lot about adjustment disorder, right? When
Mhm,
a
mhm.
person like changes a job and has to adjust in a new job. So for the first 3 months to 6 months, they do experience a lot of distress. So
Yeah.
what do you think is adjustment disorder in related to workplace?
Yes, I think that's a very relevant question. So I'll just take forward the pandemic example itself. Like initially, when the pandemic and lockdown was imposed, employees who used to go to office regularly were made to sit at home, and they had to, work from home. Now it's not just about a person who like stays alone at home. It can be a person staying with their family. That itself sort of like might cause them to adjust to, now you have other people with you, you have other person in the room sitting across you. So obviously that is going to make you like make it difficult for you to adjust. So you have adjustment issues right there. You might feel irritated, you might feel frustrated all the time, you might not know how to like conduct yourself in that situation. There might be increase in fights, for example, with your significant others, with your colleagues. There might be anger outbursts, there might be bouts of irritability. You have on one hand this happens, and on the other hand, however, right now what has happened is that now that COVID restrictions are being eased, employees are expected to get back to office. So imagine an average employee who has spent 2 years adjusting to their home environment, however good or bad it must have been. Now they have to get back to office, and they have to start working from there. So an employee who was used to digital means of communication now has to start communicating with people again. The thing is that it might also sort of cause adjustments with regards to social interactions. It might also cause adjustments with regards to your something as mundane as managing your everyday mundane chores. An employee who was used to like doing work from home kind of a scenario where they were working on one hand, on the other hand they were having the kids around, for example, or they were like rushing to the kitchen to get themselves coffee, sitting in whatever clothes they wanted. Suddenly that's no longer there. So yes, that's again, that would also cause adjustment issues ultimately at workplace as well. They might not be able to function the best.
Yes, so now that we are talking about this, people going back to their offices and having to interact again with people, and specifically those people who were not used to it. So, moving to Sanjeev with the same question and the same scenario, what do you think that having people around like your office mates increases or decreases stress? I know it's a very personal thing on some level, like introvert personality and extrovert personality, but otherwise, what do you think?
Uh, it can. I mean, it's a very valid question. So some people at office can give you a lot of stress. They can make your life difficult. It could be your reporting officer. It could be a colleague that sits next to you, bullies you, or calls you by names or something. So definitely, yes, having people around you who you don't like or who you don't connect with, that can definitely cause stress. But at the same time, there are some very nice, funny people around in office. People who joke, people who don't take things seriously, people who lessen your stress by making things easy for you. So yes, it can be a little personal, it can be a relative thing depending on person to person. But I think if you have a stressful person at office, the kind of damage it does, and if you have a person who cheers you up, the kind of positive impact it makes, the downside kind of triumphs the upside of it. So having a negative impact at office because of a person is usually perceived much more. But then that's how humans behave. And if you get 100 rupee note, the joy it gives you, it's three times, or I think Tanvi might correct me. I forgot exact the multiplier. It's 2 to 3 times the amount of sadness that can cause when you lose 100 rupees. So it's the same analogy there.
Yeah, very true, very true. So now, coming to this, this question would go to both of you. Like, how do we maintain this work-life balance? Like, how do we manage it?
Then we can go
Okay.
for it.
Yeah. Okay. Firstly, one of the biggest myths that people have is that work-life balance is equal to 50% of sort of, like I'll focus my attention 50% at work and 50% is going to be my personal life. That's not how work-life balance works at all. Work life balance is basically you try to imagine that on any given day, considering your physical, mental and emotional resources on that given day and the kind of commitments you have, how well you are able to like prioritize your work or prioritize your tasks at home and at work. So now this equation or this ratio is different for different individuals simply because of individual differences. We live different lives. We have different kinds of work to do. We do different jobs. So that's one aspect of it. And the second aspect of it is also understanding what kind of limitations you have. Like what are your limits? Uh, that is also very relevant to like striking a work life balance. The third thing that one needs to realize is to understand that this ratio is not going to stay constant. It's going to like move from day to day. Today I might be able to focus more at home and less at work, but tomorrow there might be a time where my work gets demanding, so I'll have to like focus more attention to the work. So it's always about and then there is no perfect balance, right? I mean, it's not going to be like 75-25 all the time. Sometimes like even if you put your 75% at work, sometimes you might be able to only give your 20% at home, and that is okay. Making peace with the fact, or making yourself understand that on any given day you're trying your best to cope up with the challenges that life is presenting to you, till the time you try to figure out, okay, what works optimally best for me. I think that itself is all about, like striking a work life balance.
Correct. I think, okay, let's have Sanjeev's input as well. Sanjeev, you're muted.
You're mute. You're mute.
So sorry. So yeah, I think Tanvi is right. You can't impose 80-20 rule or a 90-10 rule or a 50-50 rule on anyone and say this is how work-life balance should be. What is work-life balance? For some people, work is life. You can't just go to them and say you have to take a break. You have to go to I don't know, a recreational place or something. You have to meditate in the morning. It could be that in the morning when they get up and start writing their ideas, what kind of innovations they want in their product. It could be relaxing. It could be rejuvenating. It could be exciting for them. That's what drives them. So they can say that when I was younger, I used to put 16 hours, 14 hours a day and think that I'm, working very hard for my company. I've always run startups. So I think that was the way. I thought that is I used to normalize it. I mean, if somebody was working with me and the person was working 7 hours, I used to probably get a little upset. If not upset, at least
Mm.
I used to get a little surprised at why they are not putting in the same amount of effort that I am putting in. But honestly, that's not the way to go about it. I feel like working, I felt like working 12 hours, 14 hours back then because I thought that's the way to go about. Now I don't think so. I don't work 14, 15 hours anymore, and I won't. It doesn't matter. If I have my VCs, investors, or anyone else, my parents or friends, colleagues telling me to work more, I won't. I know exactly how much time I need to invest and what are the other things that are important to me that I want to do. I have to get up in the morning at 5:30 or 5:45 because I go out for cycling. Now, if I sleep late at 2, I cannot do that. But what I do in the morning, the cycling, it gives me a lot of fresh ideas. I listen to podcasts, I listen to songs. So that is good. That makes me feel alive. And I'm not going to give that up for working late at night. I'm not in that age. I'm not in that maturity level where I don't know what to prioritize. So I think work-life balance comes with a sense of your own personal maturity and the way you look at it. That's
Yeah,
how.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, even
Mm.
earlier, like I used to think कि अरे यार मैं तो 5 घंटे में भी manage कर लेती थी, like 5 hours of sleep, and then I could be active the entire day. But now it's not
Mm.
possible for me. I actually am needing more sleep than earlier. So I need 7 to 8 hours of proper sleep and at a stretch, and then later on I need to be physically active to be able to function at my workplace as well.
The unthinkable has happened. Survi is aging.
Yeah, I think what I think all of us have realized is that at any point in time you can't achieve it all. Like I mean, all three of us are the kind of people who would like go getters, and I think we realize somewhere along the line that we can't
Yeah.
achieve it all. So it's okay to
Yeah,
sort
I
of
mean,
sometimes let go of certain things.
I think I've been talking to Tanvi regarding our mental health section of our app. We have been talking. We have been ideating. We schedule our calls at 7:30 in the morning because if I come back from
Yeah,
cycling,
with
she
a
says
with a
that
cup of coffee.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Sanjib.
with a
So
cup of
he's
coffee.
Yeah, I know.
Tanvi sits with a cup of
I
coffee
know,
that
I
you
know.
can probably even take a dip in. That huge. And we sometimes we even Tanvi, I think the longest we have spoken is 3 hours
Yeah, 3 hours.
from
3 hours.
7:30 to 10:30,
Yeah,
10:45.
yeah.
Yeah. So so that's how it is.
Yeah, so talking about this, earlier when I and Tarvi used to talk, we used to schedule a night call because we were always night owls and we could actually think and be active, like the brain activity would be extremely active during the night time. So earlier, I and Tanvi used to talk at night, like around 12, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and then we would go on for hours and hours. But now it has changed. Like now it's early morning rising and not late night sleeping and things like that. So yeah, things have definitely changed. So, moving on with the same topic, how does the sleep cycle, we have already talked about that, but separately, does food, nutrition, and exercise uh, actually help in abating stress?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lifestyle thing, right? I mean, if if you are if you're eating wrong, if you're eating something that is causing your body to be sluggish, and if you eat a lot of carbs, for example, carbs cause you to retain water. Salt, excessive salt, cause you to retain water. So food is something that is definitely. I'm not getting too deep into nutrition because I think we have to do another session separately for this or lifestyle diseases and all. But I think food is something that if you don't look at what you're eating, it's going to be very difficult for you. Not just the way you look, but also your sleep, your digestion, your metabolism. On the whole, a lot of things can get affected. So food definitely causes a lot of differences in the way you sleep or how much you handle stress, which is a which where sleep is a very big factor in stress management. I think more than food, the amount of rest, the amount of recovery that you get after work or after workout, sleep is very important. So sleep and food both are big factors when it comes to stress management.
I think Tanvi would like to add something to this, being a
Yeah,
mental
I
health
mean,
worker. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. I think, yes, I mean, your physical activity, your activity levels are so important in managing your stress. So when I talk about activity levels, people are like, oh, but we do not have really have time to, like do like a proper routine of exercise or a weight training or a cardio training, whatever. But being physically active can simply meaning sort of, like getting up from your chair, getting up from your work desk and just moving around, getting yourself a glass of water or whatever, and coming back and sitting, or engaging in basic chair yoga or stretching exercises can also create that momentary sort of distraction sometimes that you need. Let's just say if you're working on your computer screen, if you're into your work for continuous 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, what starts to happen is that you start to pile up a lot of cognitive inputs into your brain. So after a point in time, your brain is going to get tired, like you might not realize it, but sometimes just taking like a short break of just say about 2 minutes and doing something which is refreshing, like like just staring out of a window to watch the birds or something, or getting yourself a glass of water, just going across a desk to talk to your friend, or like just browsing through a random Instagram video and coming back to work. So I think that sometimes that short break can also refresh your brain. It can give it the much needed stretching time, and then perhaps you'll be able to focus better, you'll be able to be more productive. Same way, I think Sanjeev has already spoken why nutrition is important. But yes, eating right on the right time. So, having proper meal times. If you're having lunch at 1 o'clock every day, try to sort of follow the same lunch time. Do not skip on your breakfast. It's so important. Same goes with the dinner, right? And having small snacks in between, even that gets important for you to sustain all your energies, your emotional energy, your mental energies, and your physical energy.
Yeah, in fact, to add to this, I remember we used to have a professor in radiology. You know what she used to do? She used to have this alarm which would sound like water trickling from somewhere. Okay, and that would ring every half an hour.
Hmm.
Okay, so it was a reminder for her to have one glass of water. Okay, and then for that, she used to keep the water bottle in a separate staff room and not with her. Okay, so that was also a reminder for her that she has to do some physical activity and not just, because they constantly have to sit in front of the screen. So they don't have any physical activity. It's mostly like a sedentary professional profile. So what happens is that she used to keep the bottle away deliberately around 100 meters away, and then she would walk every half an hour to the water bottle, drink one glass, and then come back. So that was her way of handling workplace stress and maintaining that water balance. And because they constantly sit in the air conditioner, so they don't feel thirsty. But as we are talking about nutrition, water is also so important in this. So not only food, timely meals, definitely, but timely having your water intake is absolutely important. I think there was a comment flashing, right, Sanjeev? You were flashing it. Yeah. So Imtiaz says that I think working from home is more stress than office. Many reasons like there is no proper internet connectivity, no adequate working setup, etc. Yes, yes. Now, due to
Yeah.
pandemic, the working hours have increased in either office or home. In this situation, how would we manage rest time and mental stress?
Yeah. So, like managing rest time, of course, gets so difficult. So, like I said, at this point in time, I think we need to start getting creative a little bit. So, like even if you're not able to sort of take breaks after every 1 hour, you can sort of I again, this is not a golden ratio, but it you can sort of manage your time something like this. You can chunk up your time something like this. That for every 120 minutes of continuous activity that you do, you give yourself a 10 minutes break to do something which might be related to your office, but it might not be related to the task that you had taken on hand. Or in those 20 minutes or those 15 minutes or those 10 minutes, whichever small amount of break you're giving yourself, you can do all the mundane tasks. Like, for example, if you have to call and check up on your significant other, you have to call and see what your kids are doing or what your parents are doing, or you have to sort of like arrange a meeting with your friend, whatever. So for every 120 minutes, or again 120 120/10 or 120/40 120/30 is a very this ratio also differs from people to people. A lot of people believe that for every 90 minutes of work that they do, they take a 5-minute break. So you can sort of chunk up your chunk up your work time in whichever manner that you wish to do, whatever works the best for you. So this in this time you can also engage in your break time for 5 to 10 minutes. You can engage in some brief, like relaxation activities like deep breathing, or some sort of, like very brief meditation, or a body scan meditation. Or if you have the luxury of taking yourself, like say 20 minutes, 25 minutes, you can also do a Jacobson progressive muscle relaxation, videos of which are easily available on YouTube. So in this way, you can, like necessarily try to implement some activity that would give you a breather at least, if not relieve your mental stress completely.
Yeah, I believe nowadays a lot of corporates are also having some recreational facilities around their office, right? So
Yeah.
that, people can just go and hang around there for some time and then come back and work.
Yes, yes.
Which
I think
companies are these?
I think I mean, again, I'm not like the organization that I work for. We have a recreation room. So we have a recreation room. We also have a rest room, and employees can actually go and sleep for like 30 minutes in case if they're feeling like too physically exhausted or something. Apart from that, I think I have an acquaintance who works in a media company. Now you understand how advertising and media works. It's like continuous, like work, high pressure deadlines, client expectations. They have recently installed sleeping pods in their office, and people can avail those facilities for like 30 minutes to 45 minutes and no
Excellent.
questions asked. Yeah.
Yeah,
Why do
even
you need
that's in the
sleeping pods in
hospitals.
office?
Sorry.
Why exactly? Why exactly do you need sleeping pods in the office? See,
For
I'll say something. Probably this will come off as very justice. When you hire someone who doesn't perform very well, usually people blame the person who's unable to do it. But as a recruiter, if you're hiring someone who's unable to do something, the onus is also on you. The blame is on you. So if you are
Absolutely.
unable to finish your work or take rest after your work or before your work, you are not, suitably rested. There is something problem with the culture, or is it the long work hours or whatever. I mean, I can understand. Surabhi is a doctor. Surabhi knows very well. My parents are doctors. That sometimes when you go to a hospital, you can't just come out of after 6 hours or 8 hours. There, I understand. But in a corporate, what do you do?
Yeah, and
Whose life
sometimes
do you
you're
exactly?
expected to work like 72 hours continuously without any rest or without anything.
Yeah, you don't
So
go home. Sometimes you sleep in the hospital because
some all three
some of
years
your
we sleep in the hospital itself.
yeah,
All 3 years.
your colleague has taken a leave, so you are supposed to
but
go back after
but
24 or
I think
36
I
hours.
think there's a big assumption that you're putting here that people in corporate perhaps I mean, I do not mean to sort of put down any profession over here, but I mean, it's not true that people in corporates do have a fixed time. For example, right now March is an appraisal period. It's a closing
Oh,
time. I had
definitely.
my parents go to
No,
office at 7 o'clock in the morning and come home
you're
at 3 o'clock in the night and go back again to
True.
work at 7 o'clock in the morning. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
in
am
such
not disagreeing.
scenarios,
This can happen 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 days
no,
during
no,
the
no, but that's what
year end
that's what you
closure.
think. No, I'm so sorry, but that's what you think. I mean, like I have employees coming in from different corporates saying that they work on unrealistic timelines, they work on unrealistic deadlines. In order to manage those
That is
deadlines,
exactly what
they
I'm
have to
saying.
stay back.
That is what I'm
It's not,
saying. This has become a toxic culture. This is not
yeah,
something
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has
and
to be
it's
done.
everywhere. It's
absolutely. Yeah,
almost
yeah,
everywhere these
100%.
This
days.
is this
100%.
is
Yeah,
so if you're making your employee work 18 hours a day, one, that is against labor law. You
yeah,
know
Yeah.
that. Tanvi knows very well, right?
yeah.
So
Tanvir is a
I
human
mean,
rights activist.
yeah. So yeah, she is you two are. What I'm trying to say is that we normalize these things.
Yeah,
We
that's
Absolutely.
true.
glorify
We
That's
these
true.
things.
normalize this toxic culture.
Uh,
Yeah.
since I know there's a question coming about work culture and leadership roles later on, we'll thrive on this and we'll talk about this later on that. But what I'm trying to say is, if the senior normalizes it, glorifies it, that oh, you have looked at Aman has worked 15 hours for this or 17 hours straight for this. Okay, once you have to finish a presentation for some reason, something got goofed up or something, and the presentation is due tomorrow, and you stay up with the whole night to make it work. I understand that. That's once in a while. But if you're doing this every week or 5 months, 6 months, a year, then there is something wrong with the company culture.
Absolutely.
The idea of working overnight. I hear some advertising agencies they make their interns stay till 10, 11 a whole night, even working on some
And
presentation.
generally,
Present-
what happens? It's like मैंने तो ये किया था हमारे टाइम में तो अभी तुमको भी करना
Mhm.
चाहिए.
That's
Hmm.
That
glorification.
keeps on going
Yeah,
generationally,
yeah,
generations to generations.
That
It
that's
passes
the
on.
way to normalize and glorify. No? That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
You
it's
you
the
you
same thing.
can't
Yes,
ask
yes.
someone to work for 18 hours and then glorify it or make it, turn it into a hero worship thing that your senior manager works 18 hours. Why can't you? No, he does something wrong. I shouldn't be doing it. Why should I look up to a wrong icon, wrong figure, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
idolize him because he works 18 hours? Why should I work 18 hours? That's not
yeah, yeah,
normal. That's
true.
not good for my body. I have other work to do. I have my parents to take care of. I have my body
Yeah,
to take care of. Why should
yeah,
I, concentrate on doing things which is regarded normal as uh, by the entire team? So yeah, we'll come to this point probably later on. But I think what I'm trying to say is it's a thing that we have been kind of pushing on for way too long, and we think that this is okay to do. And once we come to the culture question later on, I think we can deep dive into this.
yeah. I mean, I completely sort of, like add on. Then in that case, if any organization is having, let's just say, like, like mental health professionals on board, or you might have like n number of, activities to relieve your mental stress, although it does help. But then the point is, like Sanjeev mentioned, the cleansing needs to happen at a grassroots level, right? I mean, you can't really be exploiting people and then be like, oh, like, but at least we are giving you some facilities. So yeah, that's a fundamental. There's a fundamental, like policy change that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So I think there was another question popping up. I think it was a question about students. So I think what Vaibhavi means is like kindly advise what students should do related to their, I think, college stress or school stress, something. I think that's what that means.
Right. Right. But then that's again, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure if we get into the stress that a college or a school student might face, we might need to sort of, have another hour of segment specifically
Yeah,
designed for
yeah, yeah.
academic stress. So yeah, but I think this chunking up rule, what I spoke about, like 90-10 or 120-30, that can also work for, like students who are gearing up for their exam. Now that exams are coming up, board exams are coming up, I think that is one of or ongoing, that is this chunking of time they can very well use to alleviate some stress that they might face.
Right. So now that we talked, okay. Imtiaz asks, can sedative drugs reduce the mental stress?
No, that will be no, no, no. I think should be you can answer this because you're the psychiatrist here. I think you will be able to take this question up.
Yeah, yeah. So what can happen is that because of those drugs, they are mainly anti-anxiety pills, not exactly sedative pills. So sedative pills will not help because they will reduce your cognitive level, and because of that, you won't be able to perform properly in your work. So obviously, if that happens, then the stress will increase. So no sedative drugs, but yeah, there are certain anti-anxiety drugs which are non-sedative. You can use those, some of them, like, because, and in fact they are used for stress management. Sometimes they are used for performance levels, sometimes they are used for going on the stage, when you have to deliver a speech to the public, or anything that can cause severe anxiety, or when you have to reach your deadline, meet at them anyhow at this hour, and you're extremely stressed, you have extreme levels of anxiety. At that point of time, you can just take a very very mild dose of an anti anxiety drug, and that too a non-sedative one, so that your cognitive levels are not affected. Yeah,
With proper prescription, please. Like, don't go and buy
of
yourself like
course.
OTC drugs or over the counter drugs. Please don't do that.
आजकल
Please
ओवर
go
द
to a
काउंटर तो मिलते भी
psychiatrist.
नहीं है, स्ट्रिक्टली
Yeah,
आजकल
yeah, but
बंद हो
like
गया है.
regarding, yeah,
Yeah, but some
but
some
please go to a
pharmacies still
psychiatrist.
do this unethical
Yeah.
work, because वो बिकते बहुत ज्यादा है, तो pharmacies try to sell. But yeah, nowadays without prescriptions it is absolutely not allowed. It is unethical, it is illegal even. So yeah, please listen to Tanvi's advice, go to a proper psychiatrist and get prescribed. Okay. So now that we talked about so many things, let us talk about the impact this
Hmm.
workplace stress has. So, a lot of people, as there was this question about anxiety, so a lot of people go into severe anxiety disorders, a lot of people go into depression. We even talked about adjustment disorders. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who commit suicide as well. because of that level of stress. So let us discuss about the impact now this workplace stress has, and how do we, try to
Yeah, manage that.
advise people on that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So, I mean, like what we just discussed about might be a very acute or a short-term kind of, like an impact. Like obviously, depression, anxiety can happen, and unfortunately, there is also long-term impact on workplace stress. And it's not just on your physical and mental health. You might start to, for example, because of workplace stress during pandemic, like I mentioned before, a lot of individuals are finding it difficult to, like interact socially. They don't know how to sort of perhaps like again like to go in a workplace setting and work. That might be difficult, but essentially what also happens is, because of prolonged workplace stress, is it start to strain all aspects of your life. There is obviously your physical health and your mental health that gets depleted. You don't find satisfaction in most things that you do. That might happen. You might start to strain the relationship that you have with like with your friends or your relatives. So your social life might go for a toss, and a lack of social support is obviously going to make you feel more lonely. And unfortunately, because of the long working hours and the demands the jobs are so intense, that you might actually displace a lot of your frustration that you face at work on your significant others, on your kids, on your parents. And that might cause a relationship severance with these individuals as well, your core support. And so that can be also thought about as a long term impact. A lot of individuals do think that like now is my time to sort of earn money and later on I can enjoy life. But in that process, the impact on the physical and mental health is so much so that these individuals hardly have any energy left to sort of let then sort of to even think about their future. So the long term impact could sort of, it could really perpetrate in any area. It could be your like long term impact on your mental health. We could be talking about chronic mental health issues. We could be talking about recurrent mental health issues. We could be talking about relationship issues. We could be talking about disruptions in a normal family. We could be talking about physical health issues. We could be talking about fertility issues. We could be talking about like your social behavior issues, in which you're unable to sort of interact with your friends or your relatives or whoever as much. Lack of recreation is also bad. It can start to impact your sleep, again something which is physical in nature. So really, workplace stress can start to eat out all aspects of your life, leaving you high and dry.
Yeah, because ultimately the mental stress does affect you physically a lot. And as we
Mm-hmm.
know that a lot of enzymes and a lot of hormones in your body increase. So because of that level of increase, as you discussed, there could be fertility issues, there could be so many different kind of issues. And once that cortisol level in your blood is constantly high,
Yeah.
so it keeps on impacting your physical health and indirectly your mental health. And because of that, it continues, that this vicious cycle just keeps on rotating constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you wonder why so many people are getting diagnosed with cardiovascular issues, with diabetes and chronic lifetime issues, and the answer is
PCOD
right
even.
here. Yes.
Yeah, even PCOD, a lot of other lifestyle disorders, people are developing hypertension and diabetes so early these days. Like during their, like, I think mid 30s itself, they are developing all of this. So a lot of people, I am listening to people aged 28, 32 having cardiovascular issues. Also, some of the people have gotten MI, like myocardial infarction, which just
Yeah,
go
yeah, yeah.
layman's term mein heart attack kehte hain. So yeah, a lot of these things are happening. Okay, so there is this question. Uh, can hybrid work culture help in dealing with work stress? Now, I don't understand what exactly hybrid here means, but Tanvi?
Hybrid means, yeah, yeah. So I think what Vaibhav wants to ask is hybrid is, for example, a few days you work from home, a few days you sort of, like actually go to
Okay,
office
right.
and work.
That kind
Yeah,
of
a lot of
hybrid. Okay.
corporates are also embracing hybrid, like work culture. It can be helpful. I think this is extremely subjective. This differs from individual to individual. What you need to understand is, like if you need to dedicate some time at home, and if you're finding this arrangement okay for you, it's good for you. But unfortunately, not a lot of individuals have the privilege of having like safe home space as well. Because during the pandemic, when in fact a lot of us were locked up inside our houses, the instances of domestic violence reported in this country, they were through this through, I mean, the statistics were through the roof. So if you have a home environment which is physically and emotionally abusive, or if you have a home environment which is fair enough, but like the kind of space that you have for all the individuals residing in the under the same roof, if that's not enough. Or let's just say, like, somebody, I think somebody did mention that, that there might be connectivity issues, the Wi-Fi might not function properly, or the electricity might sort of, like, cut off because of load shedding. So you have all these issues happening. Or there can be also be individuals who might not have like adequate equipment, like say a laptop or their own smartphone to also work. Because initially the assumption was like, if I'm recruited in any organization, I go to work and they give me all the setup required. That includes internet, electricity, like having like a desktop or a laptop, a smartphone, everything that I'll need to sort of do my job properly. But if you're expected to work from home, a lot of organizations are also expecting employees to have their, and I quote, excellent Wi-Fi connection, a laptop with like minimal issues that can read CDs, etc., and yeah, basically earphones and a smartphone. That is a requirement. If you have such a requirement, and if there's a gap between what's required and what you actually have and can afford, it's going to be hybrid is not going to work. In fact, it's going to be all the more stressful for you, because whatever you couldn't manage at home, you now have to go to office, you have to manage that, and you have to face the music from your management or whatever superiors.
Yeah, I think Sanjeev also wants to add something. Yeah, please go ahead.
I think a hybrid model differs from company to company. For some company, hybrid model can mean, as Tanvi explained, working from home and then whenever you want, coming to office and work. Hybrid model can also refer to a model of flexi work, flexi time. That if you think that you are productive in the morning, so if you want to come to office at 7 and leave by 4, you can do that. And if you want think that no, I'm a late riser, but once I'm up and about and once I reach office, I'm good. So you come at 12 if you want and work for 8 hours till 8 and then leave. So a lot of companies are kind of warming up to the idea. It doesn't work very well in a country like ours, but it works very well in the Western countries. I
Yeah.
mean, for obvious reasons, sometimes we don't get convinced. We don't have a lot of other supportive or things required to make that idea a possibility. So that's I think hybrid can work. It might work, might not
Yeah,
work.
what you said actually, I wanted to add this. Like, there is a hospital here in KP Sims. It actually gives these, flexible working hours. So it's like it starts from 7 a.m. in the morning and it ends around 6 p.m. So इसके बीच में आपको कभी भी आकर 7 hours करने हैं. सो इट्स नॉट लाइक कुछ लोगों को जल्दी आकर जल्दी निकलना है, कुछ लोगों को लेट आना है, लेट निकलना है. सो इट एक्चुअली हेल्प्स दैट वे. एंड या, Tanvi did rightly say that sometimes it doesn't help because it's really true that a lot of domestic violence cases had increased.
Mm.
Even a lot of incest cases and child sexual abuse cases had also increased during this pandemic because of the work from home thing. So
That's an extreme situation. Even if it doesn't
yeah,
go
yeah,
that bad, even
yeah,
if
yeah,
you stay with your parents or people who do not really align with your work or understand your work, you
true,
can get stressed while you are at work, because sometimes these days meetings run for 2 hours, and beach may they would call you to eat, then ask you to do things. They don't understand why you're so busy. Like you're only looking at the screen, right? What are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're just putting a headphone and looking at the screen. Then you must not be that busy. So yeah, I mean, a lot of things
yeah.
can happen.
Yeah, yeah, it does happen. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes people may not understand your work, and living around them and working around them is actually very stressful.
Yeah.
We have a
There
very
is,
interesting question.
yeah.
See, you might know him.
Oh, that's dad. So, Dr. Kajal Mitra has to ask, doctors are the most stressed professionals. Okay. How to deal with work stress where work from home or hybrid work culture are not the options? Yeah, yeah.
Good
That is not
question.
an option for doctors. True.
Good question.
Yeah.
Tanvi, please.
Oh, I thought you would take this up since you're also a doctor, and like, I mean, you can also give personal tips on like how
The
you manage
person who
your
is
stress.
asking the question is also a doctor and head of an institute, and so the question should actually go to a
I think it's
psychologist
a
because
very relevant question from Dr. Mitra. Very
yeah.
relevant
Yeah.
question.
It is no, it is
Tanvi,
a very
Tanvi, go
relevant
go.
question. Yeah, yeah. It is a very relevant question, and of course, you know that work from home is not an option. Hybrid work culture is not an option. Plus, the demands of your jobs, obviously, that is something which is not even funny. You have to constantly sort of perform, and you have to be there, and you have to do your job in a particular way, because the consequences of not doing it correctly also weighs a lot on you. So sure, I mean, in this case, the stress is going to be exponential. It is going to start impacting your personal life as well. It is going to give you lesser opportunities to de-stress, and lesser opportunities to sit back and have some mental peace. That is going to happen. However, what we can sort of like maybe try to find pockets throughout the day. Like I said, again, obviously over here the 90-30 ratio that I gave, or whatever ratio, that might not work here. But throughout the day, perhaps we can look for pockets in which we do something, a short activity that we really like. Think about the hobbies that we have given up, something that can be done sitting at your workplace. In this case, it could be a hospital or a clinic. It could be listening to your favorite music at times. It could be like just talking to your wife and kids at times. It could be just talking to your friends at times. So any activity really that sort of you put in at any small pockets in the day, that might help. Also, I know that again, doctors do not have the privilege of a lot of time on their hands. But if you could like at least once a week, take at least like 30 minutes to an hour to yourself, and do something that you truly enjoy doing alone, without the presence of other people around you. It could be just like taking a stroll in the park, or it could be sitting on a building terrace to sort of have a cup of coffee. It could be just watching some random sunset, or it could be going for a walk all by yourself, or it could be any social activity that you really like. If you can find yourself the luxury of at least 30 minutes to 1 hour once a week, I think that can also work wonders to make you feel okay, to sort of alleviate some of the stress that you face in your daily lives.
You are muted again, Sanjeev.
Yeah, Sanjib, you're on mute.
Yeah, I think Surabhi wants to mute. Yeah. So what I was saying, I know, jokes apart. What I was saying,
Yeah.
I think it's a very relevant question, and I think the answer could also differ in the way you're aged at. Like for example, a 25 to 30-year-old doctor, the way they look at stress or the way they get stressed won't be the same as someone who is aged 55 or 65 would get stressed. Because when you look at life, when you see a lot of things, when you get wiser, there are ways of dealing with things which you're not equipped with when you're 25 or 30. Having said that, a 25-year-old does not get stressed the way a 40-year-old. So the worst happens when you are somewhere mid between this 25 and the 65 spectrum. When you are at the age where you have just retired or you're about to retire, you understand what are important things and what you can even kind of pass, what you can work around and stuff like that. But when you are young, you don't know which is important, what is important. There are a lot of things that you don't associate with even. So
Yeah, even experience matters.
you don't understand. So you don't get stressed because you don't understand the importance of it. But having said that, you're a doctor. A lot of things, as Surbi correctly said, that small decisions can make a big difference. So you're always stressed. But I think the model of giving one day in a week where you can de-stress does not work with doctors. I think you have to find time every day. It may be 10 minutes, it may be 5 minutes, it could be in pockets throughout the day. I would suggest laughter is the best remedy. Watch if you enjoy stand-up comedy, if you enjoy stuff like that, then you should do it. Or else, as Tanvi suggested, whatever you like to do, it could be playing a bit of rummy, it could be playing a bit of solitaire or something else that you personally get a lot of joy out of. You should try and do it whenever you get a bit
Yeah,
of
so
time.
some recreation in between, as we were
Yes,
talking
yes,
earlier
Yeah,
it,
about
and
some
yeah.
recreation
it could be
centers.
listening to 70s songs, 60s, 90s songs. It could be playing calming music on YouTube. So nobody can tell you how to relax, right? I mean, someone else cannot tell me what relaxes me. I only have to find out what relaxes me. It could be
That's true.
talking to your spouse, and some cases talking to spouse does the exact opposite thing as well.
And in some cases, not talking to your
Yes,
spouse as well.
yes, yes. There was a joke that if you want to stay well, talk to the wife of someone else. So yeah, I think that's a great joke because that is how it is. It can cause problems for you talking to your spouse when you're already in a heated argument with your colleagues or something. It might add fuel to the fire as well. So you decide what makes you happy. You
Yeah,
decide
even
what gives
sometimes
you joy.
talking to a good friend of yours, like a lot of
Yes,
times what happens is like from workplace when I am stressed, I end up texting Tanvi or calling you. So it does happen,
yes,
and
yes,
I think that
absolutely.
actually calms us down.
I think
And as yeah, earlier talking
no, no,
about
go
this experience thing as well.
yeah,
It works vice versa as well. You just said that probably you don't have the experience of this, and that is the reason you won't get stressed. Sometimes some people do not have the experience, and that is the reason they get stressed, because they are not
yes,
able to understand how to handle it. So what happens is that if I compare myself with my father, now he's 30 years senior to me, so the way he handles his workplace stress and the way I handle it, there is a huge difference in that. So he may be working more than me, but he's still able to handle it at the age of 60. And
so
I am not
that's
able
what
to handle a
that's
lot of things
that's
at the age
that's
of 30.
wisdom. That's wisdom and maturity for you. You
Absolutely.
learn how to
Absolutely.
handle a few
Yeah,
things here and there. That that
absolutely.
that
Yes.
comes, I and as you said, as you mentioned, Sandeep, when I speak to Tanvi and we discuss work, it never starts off directly about work. With the first 15 minutes, we talk about
How
how her studies are
yeah.
going, how she's applying somewhere, and then what is the outcome of that, and how I'm doing, how I'm losing weight, or I'm doing something or talking about a feature, and then after 15-20 minutes, like, oh yeah, so now that we have to start discussing the feature or that particular thing that we are scheduled to.
Yeah.
So I think that is what you need to find out in your life as well. You need to find people you get relaxed talking to. It could be anyone. It doesn't need to be necessarily someone that someone else says. So, yeah,
So we are getting a lot of good audience questions today.
Hmm.
Okay, so this one, Vaibhavi is asking if some people are discriminating between boy and girl. Yeah, so she's talking about workplace gender discrimination.
gender discrimination.
Yeah. Then I get angry with them. How can I handle them in such time, and how to keep the mind stable? Yeah.
You
Wow,
you
I
just
think
need
this.
to give it to Tanvi and give one episode. She can talk for an episode on this.
I
No,
think I
but
think
I
even I
would.
can talk. I think I and Tanvi should actually do one
Yes,
episode
yes.
on this
Yeah.
thing
You
as
and
well.
Tanvi should be left alone with this question, and you can do a 1 hour episode on this.
That's so true. That's so true. I mean, I'm pretty sure that, like, this is a personal trigger point here for a lot of, like, individuals attending this show, I'm sure. And as a female, I mean, as Surbi and I, both of us, I mean, it's safe to say that, like, at some point in time, we must have experienced this kind of discrimination. Unfortunately, no matter how progressive we deem our society to be, these sort of things happen in even
सबसे
the best
फनी
of the
बात बताओ
institutions.
क्या तन्वी? सबसे
हाँ,
फनी बात ऐसा होता है that women doctors are still called sisters. मतलब काफी
yeah,
बार
yeah, I have heard
when we
about
roam
it.
around in the hospital, a lot of patients are like, even when they know yeah ये doctor है, अब and a lot of time वो brother को like a nurse, like the male nurse, वो उनको doctor बोल देंगे. बट अगर फीमेल डॉक्टर है तो वो उसको नर्स ही समझेंगे. Although nursing is not a demeaning profession, of course, like it is a very respectful position, but it's so stupid, like फीमेल डॉक्टर है, एप्रन पहन के है, डॉक्टर लिखा है उसके कपड़ों पे, फिर भी उसको सिस्टर बोलेंगे. तो देयर इज दिस डिस्क्रिमिनेशन स्टार्ट्स फ्रॉम राइट देयर. सो फॉरगेट अबाउट द अदर
Yeah.
पीपल.
It's about perceiving gender roles, right? I mean, a female can only be a nurse and a male can only be a doctor is
A
something which is
doctor,
like
yes.
unfortunately still perceived. So, yes, I mean, Vaibhav is asking if you can get angry with them. Sometimes you might not be able to help your anger, so it's perfectly okay to sort of, sometimes get angry at this situation. However, how you choose to respond or react, and in what ways do you wish to, show your or express your emotions? I think that's what matters here. I mean, personally, how I have learned to deal with this is if I face workplace discrimination, is most of the times, again, I have the privilege, so I let my work talk for me. I do not sort of engage in conversations with such individuals. That of course coming from a place where like I do my work and my work is not dependent on individuals around me. So that's the reason why I say I have the privilege to, like, ignore this discrimination. I have the privilege to look past it. I would try to sort of, like, talk to these individuals nicely. I would try to find out the reasoning. I would try to correct them. Once, twice that happens, thrice that happens, I'll correct them. I'll do it. I'll engage with a discussion. I'll tell how this discrimination affects me, impacts me, hurts my feelings, or whatever. But if I
Right.
see this individual being incorrigible, repeating the same thing over and over again, then you need to
Yes.
realize that no matter how much you try to correct this individual, they're not going to change. Also, a lot of times people do it only to sort of, elicit some sort of reaction from you. So,
Yes.
and so ultimately, sort of,
Or
I,
just to
I convince
provoke
myself.
someone.
Yeah, yeah, provoke somebody. Absolutely. Ultimately, I convinced myself that I don't think I need to give some other individual to sort of, the power to control my emotions and spoil
Yes.
my day. So I
They
choose
don't
to
have that
focus
right.
on.
Yeah.
Correct. I choose to focus on my work, and because my mental health is going to, like, ultimately I have to safeguard that. So I think, with enough understanding and with enough experience and with enough privilege, I'm able to now sort of, navigate through my personal trigger. I do rant about it, and I sort of, go to my therapist and talk to her about it, that, oh, this is what has happened. And that's how I get that, like, the entire episode out of me.
Yeah, so I think to sum it up, what Tanvi said, it's basically that let your work speak for itself, number one. And number two, ignore, and ignore because, yeah, some people do it just to provoke you. So they do not have the right to take control of your mind, to take control of your emotions. So after some point of time, there is no reason to give any reaction to them.
Yeah. So again, like, I would once more reiterate to this one thing, that again, I talk from a place of privilege. I know for a fact that a lot of times,
Yeah.
like, gender-based discrimination results in lack of promotion. Not many opportunities are passed on to certain individuals because of their gender or sexuality or whatever, religion, caste, whatever. So I understand that and I acknowledge that. And if you are still, unfortunately, a part of an organization, I mean, like, I mean, the culture of the organization speaks for itself. Then I so.
Yeah, generally it comes from the ranks as well. You know, the people who are handling upper ranks, if they do not discriminate, generally the lower ranks also will not. Yeah, but then again, we come from a place of privilege, as you said. So, yeah, a lot of other people are facing so many difficulties because of this gender harassment. But also, I want to add this thing that some things can be reported to gender harassment cell. So, in case if you are facing that on a regular basis and you're being provoked, and somewhere if people are trying to provoke the wrong reaction out of you, then definitely go and report, because the cell has been established just so that you can report such cases. And if you think that your promotion has been stopped because of this, as Tanvi was saying, a lot of other things happen because of gender based discrimination. So yeah, please again report. And sometimes you also have that privilege to report it anonymously. So
Yeah,
do it if you don't want to be
yeah,
further harassed.
correct. And
Yeah.
please seek mental health support if nothing else. I mean, at least, like, a good mental health professional can also help alleviate some of these feelings that you might have, or help you work around your trigger, specific trigger. So please do that.
Yes. Okay. Another question. Paromita has this question. What advice would you give to calm down a colleague who's stressed out about a deadline?
Okay. Yeah, that's an amazing question. I'm so happy to see individuals supporting their, coworkers, and it's not a typical corporate culture where it's like, oh, they're stressed. No, wait, I'll just
Yeah.
pull them down. So it's good. Like, I think it's a welcome change in a corporate culture that I'm seeing right here. Yeah, but I think the advice that you would help to calm down is, a, let them sort of, like, have their feelings. Give them some space to have their feelings, and then sort of, like, rationally talk to them, try to sort of engage them in some dialogue, ask more questions about, okay, what is the deadline, when is that going to approach, it's how far is the deadline, remind them of their strengths, remind them that, like, they must have taken up some work in the past that must have been similar to the kind of deadline that is being put forth right now. Remind them that they are capable enough, remind them that, like, they can do it. Remind them that you're always out there to support them, to help them in whatever ways that you can. You can help them create a plan, perhaps, to sort of, approach this deadline. You can help them chunk up their work every day. Give them motivation, give them reminders, give them enough encouragement, and essentially create a plan for them. after a point in time, even then if you realize that, oh, this individual is not coming down, and this is becoming quite repetitive, like with every deadline this individual is going in some intense kind of an anxiety, or if they're having a panic attack, or if they're getting like over the top stressed, then please redirect them again to a mental health professional. If you're not a mental health professional, sometimes you might not know the correct things to say. Sometimes the stress of the deadline might not be because of the deadline, but it might be because of some implicit issue that they must have faced somewhere else. So let a mental health professional then, like, handle this professionally.
Yes. Okay. Also, now, Tanvi, I think we should also talk about, are there any stress management programs available? And if there are, then how do they interview people and what kind of interviews are available? Can you give a sample or some sample questions so that people can actually think about it and answer them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of corporates are also. I think Sanjeev will also be able to, give some
Yeah,
valuable
please
input
pitch
into
in.
this. Yeah, yeah, but I'll also like talk about it as much as I know. So a lot of corporates are launching something called as the employee assistance programs, or for example, like these are essentially mental health support programs. It comes in various formats. It can be, for example, you have a dedicated panel of psychologists or mental health, professionals working for that set of organization, where employees can like book appointments with these professionals for whatever reason, and they have fixed number of sessions with this mental health professional per case. These sessions can be virtual, they can be face to face. I think a face to face facility which is also getting available in certain organizations. So that happens. A lot of other mental health, like these programs, sometimes they also have features like they have the dedicated app. So you find resources, you find, like you have your personalized assessments, something called as the stress assessment or your health risk assessments. You have programs basis, for example, you might have a 30-day stress management program, or you might have something which is very specific, for example, managing self-esteem program, or so you have these short programs, challenges. You might have like a facility to talk to mental health professionals. There can be helplines to help the individuals in case of panic, particularly individuals like, who work in a night shifts, or individuals who are in the sales bit of the organization. These are the two buckets in corporates who report high levels of stress. So for them, there could be a helpline available at night, wherein in case if they're facing something at that point in time, they can sort of, pick up the phone, talk to a mental health professional, just sort of, like feel okay, and then get back to work. So these are a few ways in which mental health programs are being made available to multiple corporates by individual service providers or other like health based companies.
Right. Would Sanjeev want to pitch in? Yeah, he's there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, there are questions, as I think Tanvi has already spoken about it. There are management programs which come with interviews. There are management programs which come with training, how to,
Hmm.
they put you in a stressful situation, then see how you react to it, then make you understand that what could have been done to avoid it. So, for example, if you are if you're in a company, if you're an HR, or someone who's handling this program, you can ask questions to assess how your company employees are handling stressful situations. Like, for example, you can ask that if you are supposed to deliver a very important presentation to a very big client, how do you prepare the presentation? How do you prepare yourself to present just the day before, on the morning of the presentation? How do you conduct when you see that a particular stuff that was supposed to be delivered was not delivered on time? How do you manage that kind of a stress? Or if you, as I think Paramita rightly asked, what, how do you control a stressful situation where a colleague is, hyperventilating? A colleague is, maybe making things, escalating things to a level where things are getting out of control. How do you manage that? What can you do to control situations where you feel that you are not top of your game, but things quickly need to be, aligned properly? Like, for example, uh, you are supposed to travel to Delhi tomorrow morning, and you are told in the very late night, maybe at 10, that you have an early flight tomorrow. Then how do you pack your bags? How do you manage your itinerary? How do you contact with the travel desk? How do you manage all these things? These are questions. It could be about criticism as well. Like if your boss, if your manager criticizes you upfront, on your face, how do you take it? What kind of questions you ask? Do you feel let down? Do you feel disappointed? So there could be a lot of things that you can ask, and the way you assess the employee's reaction to this question has to be very clinical. You
Yeah.
have to understand that how to assess, because if your assessment is wrong, then you might be wrongly judging the employee in terms of your understanding of stress. So you have to take a help of
Yeah,
a
yeah. So
certified.
actually coming to this, I think I should ask you this, Sanjeev. What do you think is we are already discussing about it, but I would like to put it in the form of a question for the people to understand. So what do you think is the role of leadership?
Hmm.
Uh, it's very important. I'll just wrap up what I was saying.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you need to take help of people like Tanvi. You get them on board and tell them that this is. We feel that there is we understand there is a little bit of tension. A situation is a little tense among our employees. Can you design something, a questionnaire that the question itself doesn't make them tense while answering them? That is one. Second is they feel a little, maybe a sense of competition in who can answer them the best, and a sense of gaming, a sense of competition, a sense of, maybe some questions would need your colleague's help. So, maybe they can combine to answer a question, something that builds camaraderie and stuff like that. So you can create that. Then you ask them to create a assessing system with which you can understand how they're doing it, because in some questions it would be behavioral, in some questions it would be situational, in some questions it would be based on past history. So there are a lot of things that require the help of a certified professional such as Tanvi. Coming to leadership, I think it's a very, very relevant and very important question. I think 70% of all workplace stress comes from bad leadership. If you are a bad leader, you would kind of push that down the throat of your employees, and that starts from your senior most employee to your junior most employee. If you don't know how to manage workplace stress, you would make your employees stressed about their work as well. Because if, as we were earlier discussing, the whole concept of normalizing long working hours, why would you work long hours and expect everyone? It's your company. You can work for 18 hours if you want. Nobody is forcing you to do that. But why would you force your employees to work? I mean, uh, let them, if you brought them in for certain specialty, you tell them this is your work, and then let them thrive. Let them do it. I'll give an example. I've worked both with you and I've worked with Tanvi. When we talk, you and I talk, or me and Tanvi work, I never rush it. I never ever say that you have to talk to me on Thursday at 10 a.m. I tell Tanvi, we need to talk. We need to discuss this. I'll show you this. You give me feedback. When do you have time? She says that, how about day after tomorrow and around 8? So I feel that, if she has time and I have to adjust to it, what are the things I need to do? Good leadership is about making changes instead of feeling super important that I own the company, so everybody will fall in place according to my wish, according to my schedule. That it does not need to be so. And of course, until unless you are Ratan Tata or Mukesh Ambani, is a separate thing altogether. But most people in managerial, senior managerial, and even CXO level, they can take out time to do something, and then make it easier for their subordinates, or the people who report to them. So I tell Tanvi gives me time, and we don't keep a time limit on we're going to talk exactly 15 minutes or half an hour or 45 minutes. Some days we feel it's very important we talk for 3 hours. Some days we feel that we both need to go somewhere and we talk for 10 minutes. And that has happened with calls with you as well. So I think leadership is very, very important. Another thing that comes to my mind when it comes to leadership is the whole culture of meetings. What do you do with 1 hour, 2 hour meetings every single day? What do you achieve out of it? And A single meeting has about what, on average, 5 people, 6 people, 10 people in some corporates. So if you're paying someone 1,000 rupee an hour, some people pay 5,000 rupee an hour to some senior consultants. Basically, you are paying around 10,000 rupee an hour for or all those people. So you're having like 15, 20 meetings. You're spending about 2.5 to 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs, maybe 10 lakhs for meetings. What do you achieve out of it? Now it's very difficult. A corporate, I can't just go to a corporate and say, stop this meeting culture. I can say that because we don't have a meeting culture. I mean, I do one-on-one meetings with Tanvi and we wrap it up, and we don't do it every day. We only do it if and when required, right? Me and you, Surabhi, we also do it when it is required. We don't do it every day. Nobody can say that Sanjib asks for a meeting every day and then we speak for 1 hour and we achieve
And
nothing.
nothing comes
No,
out of it. Yeah. Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah,
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 right. I mean, unless you are talking behind someone's back about something they have done, what do you talk about on an everyday basis? As a manager, you
true.
are failing if you are asking your, officers, your junior managers, or your executives to report to you and tell you every day. That's micromanaging. So much of micromanaging can never yield very good results. I mean, there could be a lot of people. I might face a lot of brickbats on LinkedIn and WhatsApp. Maybe some people will come at me and say, "What do you know of meetings?" But honestly, if I'm arranging too many meetings, I know that I have failed somewhere as a leader. So I think
Yeah,
this whole workplace culture is a very very big uh, contributor to workplace stress. Continuous meetings, continuous Excel files with reports and
Oh my
nitty
God.
gritty.
I am like actually like that is one thing that I don't like doing at all. But then it is expected out of every meeting that after that you'll make an Excel sheet and then you'll write this and that, then you'll give your requirements. And after doing
Making a doctor
everything, nothing
fill
happens.
up an Excel sheet is like what? It's the worst. Their specialty is, taking up the scissor, taking up the, a surgical instrument and do something, create magic there. Their job is not
yeah,
to work on Excel. And it's frowned upon. If
A
you
lot of
don't know Excel,
times,
it is
even
frowned upon.
hospitals, even in hospitals, mostly the other work is expected more than,
Hmm.
managing the patients. Because managing the patients does not generate that kind of revenue for the hospitals. Okay. But handling other things generates a lot of revenue. And that is the reason the management generally tries to focus on other things and makes the doctors also do those other things than their own specialty. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it is really,
That is how
really
I look at it. I think
frustrating.
if you are personally failing at something, or if you are unable to do something, I think you just deflect it on someone by asking them to continuously fill up reports and this and that. You don't need
yeah,
to do that kind of monitoring. If you're doing that, you're basically babysitting, and that means you have failed at recruitment. You work with the right kind of people. You don't have to do. I mean, there are sectors, there are works where you have to have people who have needs to do that. But in most cases, some very very senior officials are asked to do that, and I think that's a failure when it comes to a company as a leader. If you're asking you're wasting your resources by asking them to do something so trivial,
Precisely,
meeting, filling up
precisely.
yeah.
Excel files.
True, true, true.
So
Also,
yeah,
like adding to what Sanjeev really talked about here, spoke about in terms of leadership, it also is important to sort of understand how a leader can be important to, promote a communication pattern which is so transparent, and at no point in time there are, like hindrances in this communication pattern. What I have observed in a lot of, workplaces, it's not just corporate, it could be like a government office as well, often in, extremely formal settings, is that there is no communication between the top management, the middle management, and people who sort of, and whoever else. I mean, the top management, they just sort of, like back out the orders that this is what needs to be done, and the middle manager sort of, like convey it to their channels that, oh, this is what needs to be done, and that's it. Nobody sits and understands, okay, what might be the challenges. And if I, who is at the like the bottom most of the hierarchy, if I want to communicate something to the top management, my voice doesn't even reach my manager, like let alone the top management. So I think when it comes to leadership and when it comes to workplace stress, I think not being able to communicate transparently, not being able to communicate effectively in your own workplace is one of the biggest stressors that not just stresses you, it might stress like people who also work with you. like in terms of vendors, in terms of people who are associated with your workplace. So there's a lot of back and forth happening. Nobody's satisfied. Your top management is not satisfied. Your boss is not satisfied. You are not satisfied. Your vendor is not satisfied. Your customers are not satisfied. So you see, it essentially leads to a lot of dissatisfaction simply because there is no proper communication channel. So I think that's also quite essential these days to have like a transparent, effective, and an easy way of promoting communication among employees.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with this. So I think we have already discussed a lot of things, but I think now is the time to sum it up and close it off. So, could you both give at least one or two liners about how organizations, corporates, or whatever management should be making changes in certain policies? And last closure as to what you would advise people, how do they finally manage certain things?
I don't know.
Sanjeev?
Tanvi, you want to go first?
Oh, okay. I'm going first. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I think for the organizations, it's really essential, like before they appoint any EAP service, before they have any mental health professional or any mental health service in place, it's essential to understand, like take a really sort of like introspective view or really analytical view into their own culture, like Sanjeev mentioned. Understand the needs of like of your employees the best. Try to understand what is it that they need at any given point in time. Try to understand how daily operations are happening, how effectively that they're operating. And by effectively, I do not mean on a technical grounds, but if there's an issue because of which certain individuals are not able to do it, I think the question should be, okay, what is the problem, why you're not able to do it? Like rather than just yelling, how do you not get this done? It's so simple, I've explained so many times. Something of that sort. It's essential to sort of analyze the needs of your population, to sort of think about what is it that they truly need at that point in time, to have like a supportive kind of an environment. Again,
Yeah,
I'll say this
I
once
one
again.
thing very, very relevant that you mentioned was this, that you need to understand the capabilities of each individual. You cannot expect the same job from everyone, or the same level of understanding, or the same level of talent. So I think you should actually be a good judge of that, being a leader or being at different hierarchies. So you should be able to judge that very, very precisely, कि कौन कितना कर सकता है और उसको अपने कैपेबिलिटीज और टैलेंट के हिसाब से काम दिया जाए. And if they are not able to do it, then obviously you're not supposed to shout at them. And you're not supposed to say कि अरे तुमसे तो ये हो ही नहीं पाएगा, कितनी बार बताना पड़ेगा, as you mentioned. So very, very,
Yeah.
very relevant.
No, and to sort of to add on to what you just said, if your job requires certain level of aptitude and experience in place, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of workplaces. What they do is, in order to sort of save up on a lot of money, they would often hire like people who have not even like just out of like the universities freshers for a petty salary, right? And then like where human resource becomes so like I mean they would replace like senior employees or experienced employees with individuals who are not as experienced, because they're okay to work in like a lower salary of 50% less salary than what an experienced individual, what an expert would usually charge you. And in that process, you're not getting any work done. You're just ruining the culture of the organization. You're not doing anything to help
And at the same
anybody
time,
over
you are
there.
creating a lot of inconfidence in those particular employees, because they are not able to function at the level of experts. So you
Absolutely,
are,
absolutely.
yeah,
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 yeah.
Sanjeev. Again, you're muted. You're muted.
Uh, Tanvi has hit the nail on its head. I think she wrapped it up quite aptly. That I think the line to use is, if you throw peanuts, you'll get monkeys, right? So if you hire the right kind of people, see, there is no harm in hiring junior people. There is no harm in hiring interns. But then if you are hiring interns, you should understand that you are hiring interns and
Yeah,
keep your
exactly.
expectation accordingly. कहीं हम लोगों को ना ये एक्सपेक्टेशन मैनेजमेंट का कोर्स कहीं नहीं सिखाया जाता कि कैसे क्या करना चाहिए. You should, first thing that you should learn is how to manage your expectation, be it your personal romantic relationship, be it finance, be it school, colleges, whatever. You should know how to manage your
ये
expectations.
कोई नहीं सिखाता,
Now
बस
you
पाइथागोरस थ्योरम सिखाते हैं. और
exactly
और कुछ कुछ सिखाते हैं जिसका ज्यादा काम आता नहीं है.
वही वही this is something so basic. This should be taught. I think high school, मतलब the moment you are in eighth or ninth standard, you should slowly start learning this along with civics, which again I think hardly कोई सीखता है. तो ये है
Yeah.
कि मैनेज कैसे किया जा सकता है. No, how do you manage your expectations as a leader, as a manager, as an employee, as a vendor? What can you expect? What kind of work time? So what I would say, when you join a job, you should be very, very, clear about the working hours. You should ask कि लिखा तो ये है, but I need to know what are the working hours. मुझे कब से कब तक काम करना हो सकता है, because it is written that I can go home at 6:30. किसी दिन आप बोलोगे 8:30 तक काम करने के लिए, I can do it, but if you do it every day, I can't do it, then I'm not joining. आप अभी अभी से बता दो. But problem is that
Precisely.
we live in a, yeah, no, we live in a capitalist world. Everything is
Yeah.
about money. So
Yeah. True.
unless and until companies like Google, companies like the new age companies, Facebook, they have brought in these changes. Can you imagine having bean bags? I had bean bags in my chairs, and people could sit on them and relax and work back in 2010, 2011. People in Kolkata did not see that. And you know what happened? People got spoiled.
Yeah.
You need to also understand that you cannot थोपोफाई, अब तुम जोर जबरदस्ती नहीं कर सकते कल्चर को. वेस्टर्न कल्चर, you cannot just put it on Indians and expect them to adapt and behave accordingly. जो बंदा कोलकाता में ना 11 बजे तक ऑफिस नहीं आ पाता था, द सेम बंदा वो बैंगलोर जाके 9 बजे तक ऑफिस घुस जाता. सो व्हाट इज दिस इज जस्ट कल्चर. कोलकाता में
Yeah.
नहीं है कल्चर. आई एम नॉट बैड माउथिंग द सिटी. व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू से हियर इज दैट यहाँ पे चलता है. एक हो गया कि चलता है, बाहर नहीं चलता है. मुंबई में नहीं चलता है. मुंबई में सम पीपल मीट एट 2 in the night to discuss work. You can never do that while you are in Calcutta. 7 के बाद 8 के बाद you cannot have meetings, official meetings. So you can't just have Kolkata's culture in Mumbai, Mumbai's culture in Bangalore, Bangalore's culture in Kolkata. So you can't obviously blindly copy UK or US का work culture and then expect it to work in India. Even if you're giving benefits, I'm saying, तुम
True.
उसको
True.
flexible work hours दो, बोलो कि तुम कभी भी आओ, he will come at 1 and then he will want to go at 6:30. Try and understand what I'm saying. It's कि आपको 8 घंटा काम करना है, ये नहीं है. मुझे तो बोला गया है मैं कभी भी आ सकता हूँ, मैं कभी भी आऊँ, देर से आऊँ, मैं जाऊंगा 6:30 बजे. That can't work, right?
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
then
Also,
benefits.
like, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying then there are other benefits like medical benefits and gratuity, PF, this, that. You know, what I'm trying to say is you should understand who you are recruiting. You should be very, very good at recruiting. You give these facilities, but give this facility to someone who understands and appreciates it. Otherwise, have a normal, 10 to 5, 9 to 5 job, and then ask people to come and work, and usme jo hoga hoga. If you have very good qualities and you attract very good talents, you can nurture them, you can give them a lot of things. But if you are, kind of hiring any Tom, Dick, and Harry, they won't understand what you are offering. They would live a very middle class employee life because that's how the parents of their parents have worked. And ये ना DNA में ingrained जैसा हो गया है कि काम तो ऐसे ही करना है. So when you ask that what can organizations do, I think communication is one thing. You should start talking to your employees more and understand what works with them, what doesn't work with them, what is the right work culture fit. जो दिल्ली में चलता है वो कोलकाता में क्या चलता है, बेंगलोर में क्या चलता है, according to that. That is one thing. And for employees, it's very important to have transparency when you join a job. कि work hours क्या है, what are my benefits, what I can do, what I can complain against. अगर मुझे हर दिन रात को 10 बजे घर जाना पड़ रहा है, I can actually complain to the HR. I can actually complain about labor laws. I can do that. But most people, they need money, so they don't do it. So I
Exactly.
think
Exactly.
we are treading on a very thin line. In a capitalist environment, it's not very easy to
Easy to
ask,
exactly to, demand
open up,
transparency in the first place. True.
yes,
True.
yes, demand
Like I remember in
transparency,
one of the
ask for your rights.
Yeah, like in one of the interviews with another health care company, I had actually asked the CEO, like, okay, like I understood, but what growth would I see in your organization? And for 2 minutes, the CEO is like, "How do you not understand that?" I was like, I am, like from whatever job description you gave, I think this is what is expected of me, and this is the kind of growth that you are showing. But I want to hear it from you. Like, what is it that your organization has to offer? This individual was speechless for the next 5 minutes, and then he just tried to give me some vague answers. The point is that nobody demanded, like nobody asked him the questions. Like usually, people ask like, do you have any, at the end of the interview, the interviewer would ask you, do you have any questions? Most individuals are like, no, no. Or they would ask about something about leave, something about, like salary structure, something about appraisal, and that's it. But you don't ask what quality of, like life you would be having after you join the organization. What are, like Sanjeev
Very
mentioned, what are
relevant.
the policies? Yeah, what are the policies that are there in place to protect you? That organization did not even have a posh policy in place. They would refer sexual harassment cases to the CEO's wife. And I'm like,
Oh my God.
sorry, not working for such an organization. This cannot happen. Again, I was privileged enough to sort of, refuse that kind of a job because I had enough financial backing from my parents, so I could refuse it. Not a lot of
No,
individuals can do.
you're right. I mean, people don't even know what to ask. For example, if you go to an institute and you want to, you want to start a course, you don't know what the syllabus is. What should be the right kind of questions to ask. It's same with employees. When they join a job, they don't know what are the right questions to ask. So I think
Yeah,
we are a few years away from attaining that kind of transparency and maturity when it comes to employees.
absolutely.
Right, right. So I think we have already reached the end of our session, and it
Yes.
was a long one and a very successful one. We had a lot of good questions from the audience as well. So तन्वी गायब हो गई है, स्क्रीन पे नहीं दिख रही है मुझे.
I'm right here.
Yeah. No, even Tanvi, when she was answering the last question, she was still
Yeah,
at the same. I
Oh,
was like,
okay.
how is
it
she?
was
How is she not
frozen.
even moving her lips and talking? I mean, that's very, very
Okay.
good quality ventriloquism.
टैलेंट है वो.
Challenge है वो सी कॉलेज में
She's a
like
ventriloquist.
yeah.
Okay, okay. So thank you both of you for joining me, Tanvi. As usual, it's my pleasure to have you on the show, and constantly, I share the space with you personally, and I share the space with you on the screen, and I'm very comfortable. Same goes with Sanjeev.
Absolutely.
For the first time, he has come on the stage, online, live,
Surabhi,
post pandemic.
I honestly hope I have not disappointed you. Both in terms of,
No, not at
both
all,
in
not
terms.
at all. We're very happy to have you here.
No, Surabhi basically runs the show, so it doesn't matter who owns Evrox Healthcare. I was little scared to come on show because there's nothing worse than being thrown out of your own show, right? I mean, yeah, Surabhi can do that. So I was like, I have to keep questions very, very specific, very, very short, which I'm pretty sure I failed, and answers short, which I couldn't. Just let's see that if I have to wait till 2023 to get another shot at this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll think about
We'll
it.
see if
I'll
we
think
can
about
have
it.
you. Yeah, we'll see if we can have you. This is a very
Yeah,
special
I
thing.
mean, I may happen to call Tanvi for 3-4 more times, but then I'll have to think about calling you.
That is what the historical data shows. That
Yeah.
three times Tanvi should come three times more, then I will get a chance, which is okay.
True, true.
I love both of you. You both of you are amazing. Tanvi has done an amazing amount of contribution when it comes to the mental health section of our app. I think when we launch, so we will talk about it just about now. We are very excited. We are about to launch, and I think Tanvi has an amazing contribution when it comes to tweaking the design, what
Thank
should
you
be
so
there, how clinical psychologists can access, how mini mental status exams can be done digitally. So great work there, Tanvi, and
Thank you.
thank you
Thank
so
Also,
you.
much.
by the way,
Couldn't have done it.
did both of you know that April is stress month, the stress awareness month,
Okay.
and we
It
did we did a session on workplace stress.
Yeah, in fact, two
okay.
days back it was
Yeah.
World Health Day as well. So
World Health Day on 7th April. Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
I
ultimately,
think,
we did a good job,
yeah, I
unknowingly
think
and
I think
coincidentally.
I came online on a good day, after World Health Day. So that's good.
And stress awareness month.
Yes,
Very important.
absolutely,
I just got to know.
absolutely. Absolutely. And having said that, as I was saying about Tanvi, Surabhi has kind of single-handedly handled this show. I have contributed very little in this, despite her personal, issues and this and that and health. Even with fever, she has, moderated shows, which even the panelists couldn't believe that she has fever. So I think since I'm coming online first time on camera, I should say that Surabhi, you've done amazingly well. Managing
Thank
this
you.
show
Thank you.
mostly by yourself. I know this last 1 year hasn't been very easy for you. We have done our bits to make it difficult for you. I know, but despite that, you have done well. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you
Thank you.
both of
Thank
you
you.
for your
Thank you for
support, of
having
course.
that belief in me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I love both of you and thank you for joining me today. And I think we should wrap it up. Public भी अभी बोर हो
Yes.
रही होगी कि एक दूसरे की बैक स्क्रैचिंग कर रहे हैं अभी तो
Yes.
पब्लिक डिस्प्ले ऑफ अफेक्शन चल
No, I
रहा
think
है.
this gratitude, this thanks was due for a long time since I did not come on time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
thank you
Tanvi.
both.
Thank you, Surabhi. It was
Thank you.
lovely.
Thank you both of you.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.
Okay,
Bye,
bye
everyone.
bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.